Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of RE043, where I take old videos and update them to modern audio standards. This particular story is called Right and Honorable, written by RegalLegalEagle. Duke Ronson Graves took another quick glance up through the mist shrouding the day in the odd light and tried to get a sense of the position of the sun in the sky. He couldn't be sure, but he had the suspicion that he had been waiting here longer than necessary, that his opponent was in fact late. Possibly just some form of mind game. Couldn't put it past his opponents to give themselves any sort of edge in a contest like this, but he simply didn't put up with it. Bad manners to try and bring mind games into a physical contest. However, with the odd sky making it impossible to tell just what time it was exactly, he couldn't voice his concern, lest he be wrong, and the time that was set had not passed. Behind him, as usual, were his bannermen and courier. Win or lose, they'd ride hard and fast to spread the word of what had happened. It was a day he had taken part of 976 times before. He was well seasoned with days like this. It would be a day of no different than any other, he thought. Though for his day, Duke Ron Graves would in fact be incorrect. This would not be a day like any other. This day would not be like any other day for him at all. Finally, he let out a sigh as he saw the wobble of a blue banner in the distance, rising up slowly at first over the ridge of the broken obsidian in the distance. "About damn time," he muttered under his breath as he watched the procession get closer. He frowned as he inspected them from a distance, however. No horses, not even for the courier. He knew that the Inklands weren't especially wealthy, but surely they could afford a single horse for their courier. He didn't draw attention to it, however. It wasn't proper to mock or otherwise disparage one's opponent, especially now. He waited and watched them pick their way across the broken stones as they got closer and saw that the priest was amongst them. Not the one he expected, the tall, skinny one with the crooked nose. No, this time it was the fat one with a bad wig. He thought priests weren't supposed to be vain enough to need something like a wig, but apparently this one was. However, as he looked at the figure growing closer, he realized there was something else amiss. He wanted to speed things up by watching over, but he was already inside the circle, and he couldn't leave until things were complete. "The fuck is going on here?" he finally called out once they were in range of his booming voice. "Duke Graves, sir. That is hardly the sort of speak one should hear in a tuning day," the priest admonished as they got closer. "You think I use it lightly? Where's your champion? Why is there naught but a bannerman and a half-assed courier and a squire?" He waved a hand at the figures coming on behind the priest. The courier looked spry and skinny, but in the way that lanky teens were. The bannerman looked to be older than the hills themselves, even if he was able to keep the standard aloft. But the squire, he couldn't be older than 13. What little armor he was wearing looked like it was ready to fall off in the slight breeze. "The champion is here, as was foretold," the priest said in a wave of his hand. "That's not a champion," Ronson insisted then. Behind him, his compatriots began to nervously shift side to side. They'd never seen their lord this incensed before. "He is," the priest insisted once more. "Get into the circle, son." "Don't," Ronson growled out. But the boy stepped into the circle, and the runes around the two of them began to glow. "Now look what you've fucking done," he growled out as he tossed his hands in the air. "I'm going to have to pay for this nullification now, aren't I?" "There will be no nullification," the priest growled back. "Everything is right and honorable as it should be." "No, it fucking isn't," Ronson cried out. "Boy, what kind of sick fucking joke is this? 'Twas your father I summoned to the challenge, not you. Where is he?" The boy before him nervously adjusted his helm as he tried to look at the towering warrior in the face. Well, my lord." "My lord? We're supposed to be of equal rank in this sacred circle, boy. Don't call me my lord. First of all, it would be your grace. But don't use that either," Ronson raved. "Oh, what shall I call you then, my, Ronson just glared at the pathetic excuse for a champion before him. In all these years, "Just call me Ronson, boy. Least I can do is let you speak to me by my given name. Your father, where is he?" he insisted. "Consumed by the plague, your Ronson." The boy looked away, and Ronson's shoulders slumped a bit. "Oh." It was all he could say at first. "But he had other sons, older sons. When I sent the challenge 2 months ago, I had a list of all the approved members of the family who might act as a champion should the need arise. Your name wasn't facking on it, If someone had sent word, I could have nullified this day. Why wasn't I told? Plague, the boy muttered. Your father had a chief man of arms, did he not? Why wasn't he given temporary title for the ceremony? You can't tell me that he hasn't done it before. He wagged a finger not at the boy, but at the priest. Their estate was lacking the proper funds for such a title, the priest explained. Are you telling me that because the family has hit hard times due to the plague that I have to kill one of their few remaining children? What would his mother think? As he blurted that out, he saw how the boy wouldn't catch his gaze, nor the courier, but the old bannerman in the back had his mouth set in a deep frown. He was glaring hard at Ronson, harder than almost any man he'd seen glare at him before, almost. No! Are you telling me that this is the last surviving blood of his line, and you wouldn't grant his man-at-arms champion title for a single day? Everything has to be done the right and honorable way. Even as the priest said that, the book hanging from the iron chain around the neck began to glow. No! You stop this now! Ronson shouted. According to the most ancient and holy of scriptures, all around them the smaller stones and shards began to rise up, vibrating in the air. Enough! Ronson shouted. The day of Jewel has been foretold. It was supposed to be a sacred moment, one that Ronson usually relished, but not this time. Not like this, he screamed out and kicked at the edge of the ruins, but his foot bounced back from the circle that rose up around him and the boy. Do you, Lyle Mawson, first of the name, champion of the Inklands, accept the burden upon you as right and honor demand? The priest's eyes were glowing white now as he channeled the ancient text. Don't fecking do it, Ronson pointed at the boy. Don't you fecking do it. You must, sir, the courier behind him begged. Child, we spoke of this. It must be done this day. It is the only right and honorable way, the priest said, breaking from the tradition of his voice faltered for a moment. Lies! There must be other ways, Ronson bellowed, but the boy gulped. I accept this challenge in the right and honorable way. The blue runes around the boy's half the circle grew brighter still. Now you've fecking done it. Ronson's lungs were starting to burn with the amount of air he needed to keep yelling at everything, but he managed. Do you, Ron Grays, first of the name, eat shit, Vectus, Ronson screamed. Champion of the Valley of Sun, the forest of rune and rain, the plains of snow, the plains of Nestle, and the infinite steppes. Ronson just screamed wordlessly now in frustration. Accept the burden as right and honor demand. Ronson seethed, teeth clenched tight as he glared at the priest. I'm not saying it. Then you would forfeit your duel, the priest reminded him. I'm Duke of Bloody Graves. I haven't forfeited a duel in my entire life, he raged. This is not how this is supposed to be done. This isn't the way. Do you accept the burden as right and honor demand? You must answer now, or your challenge shall be forfeit. As the priest said that, Graves could feel a tightening in his chest. The stones around him, normally a bright red for his colors, began to turn black, and he gasped out once before finally caving. Fine! Damn you, yes! I accept this challenge. This is right and honorable way. With that, his chest immediately felt lighter. The rune snapped to bright red, and the air between him and the boy crackled for a moment as the invisible field that had between them faded away. Then let the contest begin, and the fight to be conducted in the right and honorable fashion, the priest finished. Ronson simply drew his sword and stomped forward, while the boy drew his. Ronson didn't even bother with his shield, as he swung with a single hand, batting the boy's shield away first. The boy backed up, but was soon pressed against the wall of runes behind him, his family sword raised up before him, which Ronson knocked out of the boy's hand with another strong swing. I yield, the boy cried out, but Ronson just grabbed him by the shoulder, shoving him down to his knees. You can't, boy. Not here. This is all I can do for you. The boy looked up at him with a sort of terror he hadn't seen in a very, very long time. A time when battles were waged between armies and not just champions. A time the rivers ran blood and the corpse walkers could eat their rotten fill. He tugged the boy's pitifully fitted armor aside and guided the tip of his blade down between his shoulders and neck, down into his heart. Bright red flesh, crimson blood came bubbling out, steaming slightly in the odd mist on that terrible day. The boy tried to say something as he looked up into Ronson's eyes, but all that came out were bubbles of blood before the light drained from his eyes, and his small body collapsed back against the black stone. More blood came pouring out of the wound slowly, filtering into the cracks between the rocks, as runes faded between them. The priest raised his hands as the chained book around his neck drew brighter. So it was to be written, so it should have been wrote, a duel completed in the right and honorable way. The priest closed his eyes and mouth as the white light faded from them, and Ronson could hear the final sizzle of the runes around him going out. No, it wasn't, he said quietly, almost too quiet to be heard. Almost. Duke Graves, well, I can understand your concern. It was beyond the hands of mortals. We both know this. You are angry. This is acceptable. But the ritual was completed in the right and honorable way. Your anger doesn't change the fact, the priest said with a slow shake of his head, as if explaining the message to a child. It was not right, and it was not honorable, Ronson growled out as he finally looked away from the boy and up at the priest. It was not beyond the hands of mortals. A title could have been granted. Damn the price. Damn the price. You would have us risk the wrath of Celestials over a single boy, a single bloodline. It was written, and so it shall have been. It was his will, his plan. Clearly this was for a purpose. The priest shrugged. If he had done something else, if he had looked sad or angry or anything, Ronson might have reacted differently. But instead, he stepped out of the circle with his sword pointed at the priest. His plan, what the Feck sort of plan, calls for the death of a mere child at the hands of a veteran. What sort of fecking plan is that? A child who watched his entire family get consumed by the plague. A child who had no fecking fundamental understanding of why he was here or what would happen to him. What is his plan? What plan is that? As he approached, the priest began to back up, gripping the book around his neck and raising it up as a shield. Duke Graves, you are stepping beyond your bounds, even for one such as yourself, to even raise a blade at a man whose word, what, isn't right, isn't honorable, Ronson screamed. You don't get it, do you, priest? You've ruined me. You've obliterated the very fiber of my existence here. I live my life the right and honorable way. Every single damn day of it. 977 times now I've conducted a duel and won. That's 977 lives that I should have to carry a burden upon my shoulders. Better mine than some poor pig farmer who has a spear shoved into his hands and is told to jam it into another pig farmer's marching under a different banner. That's what I told myself. That's how we ended the war. That's how this all came to be. I was there. The priest continued to back up, but his foot caught on the broken obsidian boulders scattered around and cried out as he toppled over backwards. But Ronson just kept walking forward, sword aimed down as the priest now whimpered and tried to crawl away from him. Like a worm, worse than a worm. The word is not broken. Everything holds true. You cannot do this, Duke Graves, the priest gasped out. All that honor, all that righteousness stripped away from me, Ronson ranted, ignoring the priest's plea. The other assembled people just watched, horrified and terrified in the sort of way that kept them moving to help or hinder, transfixed by what they were watching. Taken my single jewel. You had me kill a boy. A boy, Ronson screamed. Why? The word? The pact? Countless lives have been spared the agony of war, Ronson, the priest called out. You saw it firsthand. You were there. You knew the horror. Why would you break it now? Why? The priest tried to reason with him as he continued to scrape and scramble over the rocks. 'Cause you don't fucking get it. Neither did I until now. If they were willing to do this to one boy, then it's not just one boy. It's not just one family. They're willing to do this to all of us. This is the right and honorable way they give us. It is not right. It is not honorable. It is a farce, a mockery, a lie sold as a promise to hold us back. So feck him and feck what is right and honorable, Ronson screamed as he finally plunged his sword down through the book chained to the priest's neck, and then through the priest himself. The fat man gasped and screamed as the blade sank into his chest. Once again, blood bubbled up, soon spitting out around the body to seep into the cracks in the otherwise pitch-black rocks. The field was silent, and aside from Ronson's raged breathing as he leaned over the dead priest, he panted for a minute, then straightened up, pulled his sword free with a jerk. Then he pointed at the boy's courier. "You! The deed is done. Tell your people I am their new master, and tell them to raise all banners. The regiments are to rise once more." Sir. The lanky teen gasped out in confusion as Ronson's own courier approached on foot. "Your Grace, the banners haven't been raised enough." "I fucking know how long it's been," Ranson bellowed. "I'm not sure if they've even know," his courier started. "They had fucking better. Otherwise, what the hell am I paying my sergeants for? You go as well. Now, to the rest of my lands, raise the banners," he waved. "Which lands, Your Grace?" the courier asked. "All of them!" Ronson screamed with all the strength he had left, which finally startled the courier enough to turn and run, jumping onto his horse and digging in the heels to get it going. The lanky teen as well turned and began to run. The two bannermen began to slowly approach him, then, their sacred task still to keep the colors aloft. Aren't you going to follow, sire?" the bannerman asked. The old one, who had been with the boy, wasn't speaking yet, but he wasn't glaring anymore. "I'm going to bury the boy first," Ronson explained. "Not see him to the temple, sire?" the bannerman nervously inquired. "I am going to bury the boy," Ronson insisted. "Here? But it's obsidian, sire. You have no tools with you," he mentioned as he looked around. "Then I shall use my hands," Ronson answered simply. He sheathed his sword and then looked around for a place that might be better to start digging. "You there!" He waved a finger at the boy's old bannerman. "I don't suppose you've been in a siege before, you old-timer?" "I have," the old man muttered in a voice as dry and dark as obsidian around him. "Good! I'll have need of good sieges soon. I can train men to fight in a field, but a siege, you need to live that," he nodded. "The capital, then?" the old man asked. No, I won't need a siege for that. If it weren't the debt I owed his father, I could have replaced him long ago. But that doesn't matter now. I'm not doing things the right and honorable way anymore. Not like that. He'll join me by choice or by force, but he will join me." He felt cold as the misty day around them seemed to cut through the sudden wind. "Then what is your plan?" the old man asked. "I gather my banners, march on the capital, gather his banners, and then we march straight to hell. I have need for more allies. Once more. For once that is complete, we march on heaven." He looked up to the sky then. The mist might shroud the sun from his direct gaze, but he could feel the warmth upon his face, even in the distance. Could the inverse be true then? From this distance, could they feel his hate? Did they have any idea of what they'd done? He didn't know yet, and while he knew he'd find out soon, he had work to do. So he dropped down onto his knees. He took hold of a rock beneath him, slowly twisting and jerking to pry it free from the dirt. That was all to come later. First, he had to bury the boy. It was the right and honorable thing to do. End of story. I'd quickly like to thank the T5 peeps: Cold War Boomerwaffen, Severin Cerberus, Bushmaster 177, Henry the Red, Caspar Arnholtz, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Elijah Silvercross, Dragzoon WRE, and Severin Cerberus. Thank you very much.